oh, well, she's great with children. And I go, okay. Did you interview Syrian children? Did you interview Honduran children? How about some Iraqi children? Libyan children, maybe? How about children whose parents lost their jobs because of trade policies that had their parents have to lose their jobs here in America? Like, I'm just curious. Like, if you really want to stand up and say, go for it by yourself. But I can't say I love this activist more than Bepta Caceres's activism. And she's no longer with us. And that's a real problem. And Environment got to stage after I spoke and did that speech. Okay, so this is me doing this work for a really long time, and particularly being inspired, because I want to make this really clear. I didn't write this letter to be divisive. And I definitely am very surprised to see how people took this as an opportunity to go, you know, there are more Chicanos than there are Puerto Ricans and Cubans, and you better watch yourself. Really? Like, I think when we're looking at the crisis, the debt crisis in Puerto Rico, we're seeing there's a real problem there. When we finally have the president visiting for the first time in Cuba in years, I think we've got a long way to go. Yeah, there are different issues that work for different folks, but to divide Latinos along those lines, to have created somehow by asking for a dialogue, that suddenly turned into people being like, ooh, fight, like high school styles. I'm like, are you serious? Because I'm looking at who these people are, and they're grown. These are adults that are way older than I am. And I'm like, really? So that's how you read this letter, and this is what you wanted to say about it? Because they also still didn't
playing a role in breaking down America.
Well, I co-founded BRUTO Latino in 2004 because Latinos were becoming the largest minority in the country. And the only way that I kept seeing often being described as is this like Latin wave. And it's sort of dismissive of the history that we have as Latinos throughout the world, but especially in America. Like, thank God for someone like Desi Arnaz, who actually said, why don't we hit record when we're doing these shows? Because that's why there was like nothing before, it was all live television, and then all of a sudden we had the Honeymooners, you had I Love Lucy, you had all this different stuff, because we've had remarkable innovators. People were like, we should have a Latin Wonder Woman. We did. It's a part of that, you know, like, so it's interesting that we have these moments where the pendulum swings back and forth. Women's roles were great, now they're terrible, now they're great, because we don't know our history very often. And so for me, that's what it was about. It was about going, okay, let's not just talk about people like this number and go in the future, they're gonna have this great power. They're only gonna really be able to utilize and have great power if we start talking to them now and start engaging them now in the political process. And letting them know how powerful, and I'm so glad that we started it then, because 11 years later, we're able to do things like, you know, give a financial award to Sarahi to make her dream come true. We do summit series, we do census initiatives, we help to co-found National Voter Registration Day. You know, like, we've been able to do really, really remarkable things over the years because we're more than just voter registration and GOTV. And, you know, it was really important for me that it was nonpartisan because I wanted people to know that we cared about their voices, not because we were running for office and we wanted them to vote for us, and not because we wanted to say your voice is really important, but only if you check this box.
Right, or this is how you need to think.
And this is how you need to think. It was like, stereotypes come from a place, and there's a particular reason that has to be investigated as to why people want you to believe those things. So, like, for me, I'm an actor, so I understand the razzle-dazzle of trying to capture people's attention because they're in the midst of their lives. And, you know, someone's gotten a pink slip, someone's broken their leg, someone's family member just died. You know, people are in their lives, and we're trying to go, and by the way, there's a new show coming out, there's a new movie, there's a new play, there's a new book, there's a new, will you pay attention? Can you catch your attention for a second? And what I find, and especially when, you know, looking at the media and stuff, that there's a different perspective that's being done. They're looking at that same information, but they're manipulating it. I know that you don't have time, so I'm just gonna tell you what you missed. And unfortunately, when I read those opinions, they're not actually what you missed. I watched the debate, I watched that interview, and the spin that you sold me the next day, taking advantage of the fact that the person didn't have time to watch it, just clouded someone's perception, and oftentimes we are too busy to do that research ourselves. And so I was very active. You know, I did the movie Rent, and for me, when I did that film, it was like home. I grew up there. I have friends like that. One of my very best friends was a transgendered woman who unfortunately is no longer with us here today. But to see where we have come so far as a culture and as a country and as a world because of activists like herself just continues to inspire me every single day to come forward. So yes, I'm an actress, and that's how a lot of people know me. But I've been an activist for way longer, so I like to call myself an actress.
How is it that you think some people are able to see all of that and grow up in a very difficult situation with more barriers than bridges in their lives, and yet they're able to utilize that for positive and grow? In other words, what do you think is the difference between some people who simply feel that they're stuck where they are and stay there, and others who say, you know what, this reality I'm not going to accept?
Well, we are, not everybody's, I said this when I was really young, I remember just
Still
people
are.
that I met, but not everybody's gonna get it in this lifetime. Like there's some people who are just really, they're hurting themselves and they're keeping themselves from having certain realizations, and they're really cowed by the reality that's around them. And so yes, I grew up with a lot of barriers, but I also, that didn't mean that I didn't see the bridges. Actually, there were a lot of bridges. That was actually what was the biggest education for me, was that for everything that I read about myself and my statistics and the numbers, like I didn't fit into what they kept saying. That's how they, and some people read that and they believe it and they internalize it and then they make it real. But I was looking at it and going, well, that doesn't make any sense, because I know some really amazing people, and yeah, they're doing really important work, and it might not be, something that'll get on a stage like this and be awarded, but like they're community organizers, they're activists, they're working on school boards, they're making sure the kids are getting home safe, they're artists, they're passionate people. And I remember just growing up and being so inspired by them, and when I had the opportunity to have them like thrust in my face, it just made that much more sense that I would speak to them. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you to George Torres, aka Hibaro, for finally getting me down here. We've been asking for that for a long time. My friend Sarahi, who actually won an award from Voto Latino's Innovators Challenge, got an award yesterday, and it was just perfectly synchronous that we were able to be here at the exact same time. She created a really great app called the Dreamers Roadmap, and we were able to award her $100,000. And she got an award for that work here, totally separate of that, and it's just really exciting. And that's the reason why I do what I do. But where it started from, my mom, who's here, is a teenage mom. And that meant that we were not supposed to achieve much of anything in life. That came from not only the community and the world at large, but even within the family. And I think sometimes when you have that underdog kind of upbringing, black sheep kind of thing, there's really nowhere to go but up. And having grown up in a squat, it was an abandoned building in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I was born in Coney Island, my mom was born in the Bronx. I was able to appreciate that because of my parents' tenacity to move into a building that didn't have water, heat, or electricity, but thought that they could maybe make a home for their children in that space. It just showed me what the power of spirit can do in any opportunity. Like when the world gives you no's, but that's not a good enough answer, you do something about it. I grew up in the Lower East Side when watching, how they cleared out Tompkins Square Park and the police riots that went on for days. I watched a tank come down 13th Street when they tried to evict squatters, and talking about how the city was spending, losing so much money to these squatters, but a tank coming down 13th Street and a helicopter and 24-hour police surveillance 4 years in a row, that cost the city lots of money.